The U.S. military has officially entered the chat on the Charlie Kirk investigation, and they're bringing a massive reality check to Kash Patel's FBI. But no, for real, the military has blown this story wide open because the U.S. military is now coming forward with a Charlie Kirk bombshell. So they've come forward with some details and a name we haven't heard in a while. They've come forward to say we're on the completely wrong track with this whole thing. So for months, we've been fed a very specific, neatly packaged narrative, some neatly packaged conspiracy theories, lots of information about what happened in Utah. And we've also been given a specific timeline and a lone suspect. And we were told, trust the process, believe the authorities. They've got everything under control. But now, one of the most elite tactical operators in American military history has stepped out of the shadows to say that the official story is physically impossible and that we're looking at the wrong guy. So according to his new, highly detailed ballistics theory, authorities aren't just on the wrong track. They are completely blind to how the shooting actually went down. The angles don't work. The physics don't align. A lot of you guys have been emailing me this information too from your perspective. And beyond that, to prove that the entire investigation is just compromised from day one, this military expert is pointing the finger directly at a ghost. He's bringing up somebody who was right there on the ground when all this chaos started, a man who the media and police pretty intentionally and very immediately erased from the public timeline almost as quickly as he appeared. And I'm going to show you today exactly that man and exactly that moment. And you're going to be like, wait, what the fuck? How did we forget about this? And real quick, if you're new here, I'm Lauren Paritra. Willa Paritra and I, we run this operation daily, independent, network free, every single day. We bootstrap this whole thing out of pure principle and as an effort to keep you safe from Stephen Little Bitch Miller. Because bad news, guys, a Turning Point USA donor accidentally fed Stephen Miller. They had some scraps left over and they fed it to him and he ate it and ran away. And now he's entering what a lot of scientific experts are calling his exploratory phase. So he's sniffing things out, trying to see what else he can eat, what else his little pot-belly Dracula body can tolerate. He's sniffing electrical outlets. He's trying to figure out whose home to occupy next. So I need you to be safe. And the only way to be safe and the only way to keep him occupied and pissed off is by following us wherever you get your podcast, giving us a 5-star rating, leaving us a comment, 6 words or more, sharing this video, hyping this video. All these individual actions keep you safe from Stephen Miller. And every time you press one of those buttons and support this show, Stephen Miller gets a little bit more occupied and a little less likely to show up in your crawl space. Okay. So a former Navy SEAL from Tier 1 Ops decided to evaluate the Utah Valley crime scene. And listen, the version you know is actually missing a critical detail. I'm going to show you that next because a lot of you guys have been in the thick of it with me. And everything you know so far about this, I guarantee you is backwards because I'm going to show you first this clip from 5 months ago, and then we're going to get into the current moment in time.
Have you paid attention to the Charlie Kirk aftermath much? What are your thoughts on that?
I would like to know what happened. I would just like an explanation of how this kid got a 30-06 that was taken apart onto a building, put it back together, and the scope on with one screwdriver, took a cold bore shot and hit it, took the gun apart with the same screwdriver, and then he left the screwdriver on the roof and he jumped down. His shadow disappeared. He jumped down without the screwdriver, ran to trees, put it back together, wrapped it in a thing, and ran away and texted his lover, not the way a 22-year-old would text someone, but the way someone that spoke English as a second language would text someone. Just tell me how that happened, and I'll be fine. And then just with Erica Kirk saying, "I forgive him." Well, that says guilt. So he's guilty, and don't worry about it. Oh, by the way, we're going to take everything down, and we're going to. Did they pave over a crime scene?
Yeah.
That actually happened.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions. Why'd you do that? I mean, I've shot a lot of dudes close, and that's an exit wound right there.
I mean, retweet. So Rob O'Neill, in this clip, he confronts Erica Kirk and the FBI about the Charlie Kirk version. He is as many of you probably know him to be, the widely recognized as the soldier who pulled the trigger on Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. He actually, unlike me and unlike a lot of you, brings combat experience to the table. He looked at the FBI report and immediately was like, absolutely not. There are so many physical impossibilities with this angle, whatnot. And he thinks that the investigators, the federal investigators, completely botched the ballistics. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think really a lot of this centers around Kash Patel just wanting to use the PJ to go to events with his honeypot of a girlfriend. But that's not even the part that matters. None of that really even matters because the detail that gets left out every single time is this. Real quick, today's episode is brought to you by Brickhouse Nutrition. Everyone's talking about weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering your blood sugar and reducing your appetite. So what if you're looking to lose weight, but you're not interested in those painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? Well, that's why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn fat by converting it to energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. But listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose. And let's get you started today with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. You can visit takelean.com and enter code Lauren, that's Loren, for your discount. That's promo code Lauren at takelean.com.
Rob, you know what you're talking about. That's why we had you on. You know about ballistics. You shot bin Laden. What bothers you the most about this investigation?
Thanks for having me, Rob, and good to see you, General Holt.
You too.
A lot of things bother it bothers me about this. Nothing in particular, and it's not like I'm out there saying big lie or conspiracy or someone did it. I'm just saying I've been in a lot of shootings closer than I saw the camera, and I've never seen a shirt move like that. That looks like an explosion to me. Just the fact that no one started doing first aid to Charlie Kirk, they were more concerned about getting SIM cards out of cameras, removing cameras, and then getting him off the X somehow. There didn't seem a lot of concern for his life. It seemed like just clean it up. And then, I mean, I've been told they paved it over a couple days later. And then you get Erica Kirk behind all the razzle dazzle, and she's really quick to forgive the alleged shooter, which technically says that was him because I forgive him, but then she can't forgive Candace Owens for having an opinion or asking questions. And they mock people by saying, oh, I'm just asking questions. Yeah, I'm a SEAL Team 6 sniper. I'm asking a lot of questions. No one wants to answer them.
General, same to you. So this rifle, this 30-06, it's a powerful rifle. What do you make of this narrative that the bullet might have hit Charlie's spine, which would explain why the damage wasn't what you would typically see with a rifle like that from that range?
No, that's not what happened. And this is the thing that hurts here is, and what bothers me the most out of it.
Wait, did you say, General, you don't think that's what happened?
Absolutely not. I'm with Rob. Something exploded on him. But I don't have to get into the details because I'm not in a court of law having to prove a darn thing. Here's what bothers me is there are millions of vets with Rob's training in combat arms as low as mine is. I'm a pilot. But we have enough training to know better than the garbage that was foisted upon us from the Justice Department that day, where they seemingly solved the case in about 8 hot seconds.
There was this guy, and the media and the FBI just labeled him a wacko, this guy George Zinn. This is this 71-year-old guy who immediately after it happened jumped out and said that he shot Charlie Kirk. And in the moments, the aftermath, I was here in the newsroom, we thought it was this guy. And the FBI even said, we got our guy. Why would someone make that claim in a situation like that? I know that you don't have the answer to that, General, but it just was very bizarre.
No, but there's been a lot of reporting that he's got an interesting past all unto himself, and he's been at several scenes of the crime. Needs to be looked into. I'm more interested in a gentleman named Zach Qureshi, who it was tweeted out, well, we got our guy. They didn't name him at the time. We got our guy. And then 90 minutes later, oh, we don't got our guy. Well, that's 90 minutes that a real killer could have fled the scene. But if you're going to tell me that Tyler Robinson, with his background, is that cold-hearted a killer that he can do all the things that were just reported, and then he's going to show up at a restaurant and go, totally good now. I'm sorry. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
And then go ahead and hand the defense team all of the evidence so that they can get their continuance for the probable cause hearing, because that's not normal either.
Hold on to that. Zach Qureshi and George Zinn. So when I heard this, I was like, oh yeah, who was that guy? Do you guys remember this? So the next video I'm going to show you is a bit distressing. We might just show a quick clip of this so that way I don't get demonetized and lose more money. We might play it without the sound, but what's happening here is somebody screaming, "How dare you?" You could hear the pain in their voice. And this is, at the time, people think this is the man who, Charlie Kirk, and he's dragged off by cops, and somebody was set to interview him. Candace Owen says he claimed to have been paid to cause the distraction. Very interesting past on this guy. Okay, so let's go back to September 10. The police detained this man, George Zinn, during this chaotic first couple minutes at Utah Valley University. Have we heard anything about him since? Really? He walked right up to a detective and confessed to the pew-pewing. Zinn yelled at officers to pew him and refused to hand over a weapon. He successfully sucked up these police resources while the actual escaped. Police eventually released him, but yes, this 71-year-old man, George Zinn, falsely confessed immediately after on September 10. He was willing to die for it. So what was that? And why haven't we heard a damn thing since? So again, he approached a detective at the scene and repeatedly yelled, "I shot him. Now, me." He refused to tell officers where the weapon was and kept demanding that they shoot him. So this guy has a very interesting past, as alluded to in that clip. Here's a conversation with this man who, again, acted as the decoy.
He liked his organization. And so when they did their tour and they came to Colorado, I kept calling them up in Phoenix and saying, bring him to Utah, you know. Then I found out he was going to Utah Valley and also to Utah State, and I got really thrilled. I was going to go to both of them. And then some asshole seemed dead, and I went nuts, okay? I jumped up and I go, me, you know? And I don't know what happened. I just, it was a terrible reaction when I saw him. And I think I seriously thought I would have taken the bullets for Charlie at that day, you know? Because it was that traumatic. It just turned into a big mess, you know? I ended up getting arrested for it, and plus that the child images that they found on my phone.
When you were at the hospital, it was reported that you said somebody told you that they paid you to cause a scene after he was shot. Is that true?
No, for heaven's sakes, no. See, and that's just crap that's going on. This was just a triggered reactions. Excuse the pun, you know.
Yeah.
It was just a reaction because I didn't expect to see him in front of me like that.
Woof. Okay, so that was from January 31st, or that's when it was posted by Diligent Denzian. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. What's up with this guy? A lot of people are saying, is this guy a patsy? And here's why. The official police report dismissed him as a confused elderly person looking for attention. And a quick background check shows that there's an extremely weird history with him and national emergencies. So Zinn was in New York City on September 11, 2001, and he watched the planes hit the Twin Towers as a direct eyewitness. Police then arrested him in 2013 for emailing a threat to the Salt Lake City Marathon right after the Boston. He told authorities that the threat was a joke. Now he shows up at Charlie Kirk's, one of the biggest kind of political polarizing figures in recent history. And he does so to paralyze local police response with a fake confession. So the odds of one person accidentally stumbling into all three of these events are roughly 1 in 2 billion. So the military theory suggests that someone may have deployed Zinn as a highly effective tactical distraction. And his false confession caused some confusion for two reasons. diverted police resources. Officers had to focus on detaining and searching him rather than securing the scene and hunting down the actual sniffer. Not that they were really busy doing much of anything anyway. And it spawned a bunch of viral misinformation. So I remember I was sitting right over there on my Nook that day. I was on calls on other material and this came up. And obviously as a political commentator on the opposing side, it was a scary moment. Nobody wanted to see that. Nobody wanted that for Charlie Kirk, even though, again, somebody I fundamentally disagreed with. You don't want that. That's what this whole thing is all about. So I remember seeing and hearing they got him, then they didn't. And then we just kind of moved on. We were all so shook by the whole moment of it all. And then he gets led away in handcuffs. All this stuff goes online. They believe that they caught the real guy right away. And then after being detained and taken to the hospital for a mental or medical episode, he recanted his confession. And he told police he lied to draw attention away from the real, so that way they could get away, claiming he wanted to be a martyr. So he's willing to die for this. And investigators ultimately determined that he had no connection to the actual suspected Tyler Robinson or any prior knowledge of the plot. But the police have been so honest so far, so I don't know. And then in January of 2026, this year, Zinn was sentenced to up to 15 years in prison after pleading no contest to obstruction of justice, as well as pleading guilty to separate charges of possessing child material, which investigators discovered on his phone during the shooting investigation. So a lot of overlays between fucking up things, being a distraction in crimes, and also child porn and men. So his history is very, very odd.
Now, all you conspiracy theorists out there, I don't want you going crazy, but what are the odds that George Zinn, the patsy that was arrested at the Charlie Kirk assassination, also saw 9/11, he saw the planes fly into the buildings and called that in or reported it, and then he also called in a fake terrorist attack at the Boston Marathon bombing, and just so happened to get arrested at Charlie Kirk's event. So Tess Keyser, she responded to this tweet and she says, Grok, is a guy really involved in all three events like this post claims? And Grok fact checks it and goes, based on a review of multiple sources, George Zinn was a witness to the 9/11 attacks, and he described seeing planes hit the towers. He was also arrested in 2013 for emailing a bomb threat joke to the Salt Lake City Marathon shortly after the Boston bombing. He pled guilty to a terrorism charge and somehow magically only received probation. He was also detained and questioned as a person of interest at the Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th, 2025, but released without charges relating to the shooting. Then Grok went on and made sure that it told you there is no credible evidence that supports claims of his involvement in 9/11's false flag, facilitating Kirk's deaths, or Mossad ties. The main suspect in Kirk's killing is now Tyler Robinson, and he is in custody. So I asked Grok to break this one down for us, and it says so, and it wouldn't give me an answer first. It says,
Okay, obviously Grok is Grok, and we're not going to just take that at face value. But the real point here is that most people think the story ends here, because that's really where it ended for us. But you guys, as we're starting to scratch the surface here, this is just the motherfucking foundation, because what actually happens next is where this whole thing falls to shit. And now that you know the backstory, hang tight for the real story, the one that changes everything. I'm going to get into that next. We need a little bit more time to dig in. So make sure you're following, make sure you're subbing, make sure you turn those notifications on. You do not want to miss what we cover next in part 2. Follow along. We'll be back.